Today I want to talk to you about a concept so simple, yet so powerful, it has the potential to radically transform your life, your relationships, and your bank account. The title of this message is Focus on Yourself and Stay Silent, Watch How Life Changes. When I think back to the early days of my journey, I remember a version of myself that was stuck in circumstances, stuck in limitations, stuck in excuses. I would look around at everything and everyone searching for something to blame for why I wasn't where I wanted to be. Maybe you've done that too. You look at your bank account and it's empty. You look at your situation and it's broken. You look at your dreams and they seem out of reach. And the natural thing to do is start pointing outward. If the economy was better, I'd be further along. If my boss paid me more, I'd finally be secure. If I had a different upbringing, I'd already be successful. But let me tell you the hard truth. I had to learn the hard way. The world outside you is just a reflection of what's happening inside you. I had to make a decision. I had to stop waiting for someone or something to come save me, and I had to start becoming the kind of person who could save myself. And that's where focus comes in. Not the kind of focus that's temporary, not the kind of focus that lasts until the next distraction shows up, but the kind of focus that makes you turn off the noise, look yourself in the mirror and say, if it's going to happen, it starts with me. Everything shifted the day I realized growth doesn't start when the world gives you permission. Growth starts when you give yourself permission. And that permission only comes through focus. You can't build a future with a scattered mind. You can't plant seeds of success in soil that's been trampled by worry, fear, and comparison. You've got to clear the ground, you've got to pull the weeds, and you've got to start planting the right thoughts, the right beliefs, the right discipline. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Because you can't pour into anyone else's life until you've filled your own. You can't lift someone else up if you haven't first lifted yourself. And you can't expect the world to value you if you haven't first learned to value the gifts inside you. The day I stopped chasing what everyone else had and started building what I had was the day my life began to change. The money didn't show up first. The recognition didn't show up first. The opportunities didn't show up first. The mindset showed up first. I started reading different books. I started having different conversations. I started thinking on a higher level, and little by little, the outside world started to reflect the inside work. That's why I tell people, don't waste your energy trying to fix the outside. Fix the inside and the outside will follow. Your business isn't the problem. Your job isn't the problem. Your relationship isn't the problem. Your bank account isn't the problem. Your focus is the problem. Shift your focus to yourself. Work on your mindset, your heart, your habits, your discipline, and then watch how life starts to line up for you in ways you never thought possible. Focus is the foundation. Without it, you'll always feel lost. With it, you'll start finding doors where you used to see walls. And the beautiful part is once you shift your focus inward, once you start working on you, nobody can take that away from you. Circumstances might change, the economy might shift, people might come and go, but the growth inside you will stay, and that growth will carry you higher than any outside force ever could. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned, and it took me years to truly understand it, is that real power doesn't make noise. Real power moves in silence. You see, we live in a world that celebrates noise. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to announce their next move before they've even taken the first step. Social media has conditioned people to believe that if you don't post it, it didn't happen. That if you don't tell the world about your plans, your goals, your hustle, then you're not really working. But the truth is the opposite. I remember a season in my life when I was working harder than I ever had. But if you looked at my life from the outside, you wouldn't have seen much. I wasn't posting. I wasn't bragging. I wasn't updating people about what I was building. I wasn't looking for validation. I was just focused. Day in and day out, I was doing the work in silence. While other people were busy talking about success, I was quietly preparing for it. While other people were trying to impress, I was trying to improve. And here's what I discovered. When you're serious about growth, you stop announcing it and you start embodying it. Your focus shifts from talking to transforming. Your energy moves away from proving yourself to others and toward producing results for yourself. You don't waste time explaining your vision to people who can't even see your value. You just stay silent, stay locked in, and stay faithful to the process. When you plant a seed, you don't stand over the dirt shouting at it to grow. You water it, you nurture it, you protect it from weeds, and you stay patient even though for a while nothing seems to be happening. Growth is always silent at first. But when the roots go deep enough, when the foundation is strong enough, when the process has matured enough, the breakthrough happens. And when that seed finally breaks through the soil, when the results finally show up, they speak for themselves. I had to learn that success is not about making announcements, it's about making adjustments. Every single day I was adjusting my mindset, adjusting my habits, adjusting my work ethic, and those adjustments were quiet. Nobody saw the early mornings, nobody saw the long nights, nobody saw the tears, the sacrifices, the doubts I had to silence within myself. But the work was happening, the change was real, even if it wasn't visible yet. And the beautiful thing about staying silent is that it frees you from the need for approval. When you stop talking about your goals, you stop waiting for people to approve of them, when you stop announcing your next move, you stop inviting doubt, criticism, and negativity into your space, your focus sharpens, your confidence deepens, and your progress accelerates. Because you're no longer splitting your energy between proving and producing. I always tell people, results don't need a press conference. They'll show up wearing evidence. They'll show up in your lifestyle. They'll show up in your bank account, in your relationships, in your peace of mind. When you focus on the work instead of the applause, you build something that no opinion, no gossip, no distraction can tear down. The world will notice, but by the time they do, it'll be too late for anyone to stop you because you'll already be living what others are still only dreaming about. Life has a funny way of holding up a mirror to show you exactly what you believe about yourself, whether you want to see it or not. For the longest time, I thought the problem was out there. The world wasn't fair. Opportunities were too few. The system was broken. People weren't supportive. And everything seemed stacked against me. But the truth was much deeper than that. The truth was the world was simply reflecting back the beliefs I carried about myself. See, the way you think about yourself is like a magnet. If you believe you're limited, you'll keep attracting limitations. If you believe you're stuck, the world will hand you more reasons to stay stuck. But the moment you start shifting your beliefs, the moment you begin to operate like the person you want to become, even before the evidence shows up, the world starts to rearrange itself to match that new version of you. I remember the day I got tired of saying, I can't afford it. That sentence was a chain around my growth. Every time I said it, I was reinforcing lack in my life. I was programming my mind to stay small, to stay limited, to stay broke. But the day I shifted my question from can I afford it to how can I afford it, everything began to change. My income didn't magically jump that day. My circumstances didn't instantly improve, but my mind shifted into growth mode. I stopped accepting limitations and I started seeking solutions. And it wasn't long before my environment started to shift right along with my thinking. New ideas came into my life, new people showed up, new opportunities presented themselves, not because the world changed, but because I did. That's the thing most people miss. They think success is about changing your job, your car, your zip code, or your circle. But before any of those things can change, you have to change. Success doesn't start with your situation. It starts with yourself, Emil. The world is only ever responding to the story you tell about yourself. And if you keep telling the story of lack, limitation, and fear, you'll keep living in lack, limitation, and fear. But the moment you begin to write a new story, one of confidence, clarity, purpose, and power, the world starts delivering evidence to match it. When you carry yourself like a person of value, people will treat you like a person of value. When you think like a winner, opportunities start to show up that only winners recognize. When you move like someone who expects abundance, abundance starts finding its way into your life. The world doesn't hand you what you want. It hands you who you are. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait for permission to become that person. You can start today. You can decide right here and right now to become the person who deserves the future you desire. And once you make that internal shift, you'll start to see the external shifts follow one by one. Because at the end of the day, life will always mirror your mindset. When you upgrade your thoughts, you upgrade your life. One of the most important truths I've learned on this journey is that you cannot master anything while you're entertaining everything. The world is full of distractions, loud, tempting, endless distractions, and they are designed to pull your focus away from your future. Every scroll, every notification, every pointless conversation, every unplanned outing is a little thief quietly stealing pieces of your time, your energy, and your potential. And the truth is, mastery has never been built on convenience or comfort. It is always, always built on discipline. It's built on showing up when you don't feel like it. It's built on doing the work when nobody's watching. It's built on choosing purpose over pleasure, long-term gain over short-term gratification. That's the part they don't put on highlight reels. There was a season in my life when I had to learn this the hard way. I was busy, like most people, but I wasn't productive. I was moving, but I wasn't progressing. I'd start a project, get distracted, switch to another, lose focus, jump to something else, and by the end of the week, I'd look back and realize I hadn't actually finished anything. My dreams were starving because I was feeding my distraction. I had to make a choice. Did I want to be entertained or did I want to be excellent? Because you can't have both. Excellence costs focus, it costs commitment, and it costs sacrifice. And the moment I started trading distractions for discipline, I saw my entire life begin to shift. It meant saying no to a lot of things that looked fun but weren't fruitful. It meant turning down invitations, turning off the TV, logging out of social media, and sometimes even stepping away from people who didn't align with the vision I was building. And every time I said no to a distraction, I was actually saying yes to my destiny. Every moment I chose focus over comfort, I was making a silent investment in a future that was bigger than my feelings in that moment. See, people think discipline is about restriction, but the truth is discipline is about preparation. Discipline is the vehicle that carries your vision from imagination to manifestation. Discipline is what turns a dream into a daily habit and a daily habit into a lifelong reality. You cannot create a life of freedom if you're a prisoner to distractions. You cannot expect the world to hand you opportunities you've done nothing to prepare for. When you practice discipline, especially when no one is watching, you are building strength on the inside that the world will eventually see on the outside. You are becoming the kind of person who doesn't just wish for success, but works for it. You are separating yourself from the crowd, not with words, but with actions. Mastery is a reward reserved for those who are willing to stay the course long after the excitement has faded. It's not about doing what's easy. It's about doing what's necessary. It's about embracing the quiet, steady grind that most people will never see, and most importantly, never celebrate until the results speak so loudly the world has no choice but to listen. One of the biggest traps people fall into is confusing attention with achievement. In today's world, it's easier than ever to get attention. You can post a picture, write a caption, hit go live, and boom, people are watching. You can announce your goals, tell the world about your next big move, and for a few moments, you'll feel like you've done something. But here's the reality. Attention is not accomplishment. Your destiny doesn't respond to how many people are watching. It responds to how much work you're willing to do when no one's watching. I've seen it happen over and over again. People chasing applause before they've even earned results. People making noise before they've made progress. The world is full of talkers, full of people promoting things they haven't yet produced, full of people posting about a lifestyle they haven't actually lived. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to break free from it. Because attention feels good, but it doesn't pay the bills. Validation is addicting, but it won't build your future. When I was building my business, there were no crowds, there were no spotlights, there were no microphones, just me sitting at a desk doing the work, just me sharpening my skills, refining my message, stretching my mindset. The world wasn't watching because the world had nothing to watch yet. But that's exactly where success is born, in the quiet, in the unseen hours, in the moments where it's just you your grind, and your God. You see, your destiny doesn't require you to announce it. It requires you to align with it. It requires you to take daily disciplined action that nobody claps for. It requires you to outgrow the version of yourself that's addicted to being seen so you can become the version of yourself that's committed to being significant. Because when the results show up, they'll make more noise than your words ever could. I had to learn that success isn't about telling people what you're about to do, it's about doing it and letting the evidence speak for itself. Your car will tell the story. Your house will tell the story. Your peace of mind will tell the story. Your impact will tell the story. You won't have to convince anyone of who you are because the fruit of your work will be undeniable. The world will always try to pull your attention outward, make you chase likes, followers, applause, and approval. But the real game is played in the dark, behind the scenes, in the places where nobody's looking. That's where champions are made. That's where destiny is built. So if you want to watch your life change, stop looking for attention and start taking action. Quiet, consistent, relentless action. The kind of action that builds character long before it builds success. The kind of action that doesn't need a stage, because the transformation will be so real, the results will announce your arrival for you. Because at the end of the day, the world honors execution, not intention. The world responds to evidence, not excuses. So if you focus, stay faithful to the process, and stop seeking attention, you'll discover that the life you want has been waiting on the other side of your discipline all along. There's something extraordinary that happens when you start to work on yourself in silence and focus on your growth instead of your image. Slowly but surely, your life starts to shift, not by force, but by alignment. See, most people think change comes from grinding harder, pushing harder, chasing harder. But the deepest, most lasting transformation happens when you shift who you are, not just what you do. When you stop announcing every little step and start committing to quiet, consistent progress, life responds in ways that will shock you. The people you thought you needed to impress start fading away, and the people you're meant to align with start showing up. Opportunities you once couldn't even see become obvious. Doors that were once closed start opening without you having to force them. And here's the part that's hard for most people to believe until they experience it. The less noise you make, the more powerful your presence becomes. I remember a season where everything felt stuck, like I was moving in circles. But when I stopped trying to convince the world I was changing and started actually changing, things shifted. My income shifted. My relationships shifted. My influence shifted. Not because I was louder, but because I was better. When you do the work in silence, the results eventually make all the noise for you. That's why I always tell people, life doesn't change when you complain about it or when you announce your plans or when you wait for the perfect conditions. Life changes when you change. When you stop chasing people, attention, and validation and start chasing growth, character, and excellence, life begins to make room for you. When you invest in becoming the best version of yourself, the world adjusts itself to make space for the new you. The beautiful thing about silent growth is that it builds unshakable confidence. Not the kind of surface confidence that needs likes and comments to survive, but the kind of quiet strength that comes from knowing you've put in the work, you've developed the skills, and you've earned the results. That kind of confidence can't be taken away, no matter what life throws at you. And the best part is when you focus on yourself, when you stay silent, and when you do the work, you start realizing you no longer need to chase what you once thought was important. The things you used to force now flow. The people you used to impress now respect you without you asking for it. The doors you used to knock on now swing open on their own. When you work on you, life works for you, and when you stay faithful to the process, quietly, humbly, and consistently, the day will come when the world can't help but notice what you've become. And by that point, you won't need to say a word because your life will speak for itself. There's a moment in life where you start to realize the real secret to growth was never about proving anyone wrong, and it was never about proving anyone right either. The moment you stop focusing on outside opinions, on the critics and the doubters, The moment you stop trying to silence the noise with your words and instead start silencing it with your results, that's when the real transformation begins. See, when you focus on yourself, when you stay silent, when you commit to the process, life starts to reward you in ways you could never have imagined. Your relationships begin to change, not because people around you suddenly got better, but because you raised your standards. Your financial situation begins to shift, not because money magically appears, but because you started to think, act, and move like someone who knows their worth. Your opportunities multiply, not because luck found you, but because you became someone who was prepared to recognize and seize them. The beauty of this process is that you stop chasing things and things start coming to you. You stop begging for respect and it starts being offered. You stop seeking validation and you start living in conviction. You stop waiting for someone to open the door and you start building your own. It's the quiet work behind closed doors that creates the loudest victories. I've watched it happen in my own life. The seasons where I stayed the most silent, the seasons where I pulled away from the distractions, where I tuned out the noise, where I stopped broadcasting my plans and started investing in my growth, those were the seasons where the biggest breakthroughs came. Those were the seasons where life changed the most, and not just on the outside, but deep on the inside. And what's even more powerful is that once you've gone through that process, once you've grown in silence, stayed faithful to the work, and stepped into the next level of your life, you no longer feel the need to shout about it. Because you realize the best evidence of change isn't in your words, it's in your life. Your peace, your posture, your presence, your results. All of it starts to speak louder than you ever could. When you truly focus on yourself and stay silent, life doesn't just change, it elevates you. It shapes you into the kind of person who no longer needs the world to understand you or to agree with you or to approve of you. The world simply has to adjust to the new you. Because when you've done the work, when you've embraced the growth, when you've built the discipline, there's no room left for small conversations, shallow opinions, or outside permission. Your life becomes the proof. And the incredible part is, once you reach that point, you'll look back and realize it was never about proving anything to anyone. It was about becoming who you were always meant to be.